Okay. Oops.
Okay, so here's the text over here.
Okay, great. Okay, got it.
Yes, I brought it up.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I didn't have. I was in a class in Palm Beach with the Rebbitzin on the light of the letters this morning. So I just got back. I take a class every Thursday on the light of the letters.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. So that's nice. And then I had earlier a class from Israel in Hebrew. So it's a very busy Thursday.
Wow, excellent. That's a marathon, beautiful marathon of learning Torah.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So let's start. Okay, so welcome Chasya, welcome Leah. So in front of us we have the text, and if you'd like, you could just actually download it and have it in front of you.
Okay.
So we're going to take a look at the text on Parshat Vayeishev in the Zohar. So before we look into the text, we're going to give the synopsis of what it is that we're going to read. Okay. So in this section, we learn that God regulates the order of nature so he may execute his divine purpose, which is to bestow infinite pleasure to his creation upon humanity's completion of spiritual transformation. Okay, that's a lot of words. It's heavy words.
Right.
And we're going to stay tuned to see how the Zohar explains that further. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda opens a discussion on the superior position of man in the hierarchy of the animal kingdom. Man, we're told, retains dominion over all species as long as his divine image is not tainted by sin. This point is exemplified by the story of Daniel in the lion's den, which we're gonna get into if you're not familiar with the story. We should therefore guard ourselves against sin and examine our actions every day so that we may repent for any sins we have committed. The text then turns to an explanation of God's role in enabling Joseph to achieve greatness because he was righteous. We learn that Joseph was able to provide interpretations of dreams only because he entrusted the task of interpreting them to God. Okay, right. So the reason so quite often, the Zohar starts off with a lesson, and then it jumps into the connection with the Parsha. And sometimes it may not, because it may decide to reveal this at this particular Parsha, which of course has an inner meaning to it.
Yeah.
The connection over here, which we're gonna take a look at, tells us about rulership and about holding, like we just mentioned, dominion over the animals, or dominion, right? And it has to do with this midah, which is called midas hayesod. Yesod is the midah of foundation, which Joseph is famous for, or that's what he is a chariot for,
that's his midah.
That's what the Zohar says, that his midah is his trait, his Kabbalistic trait is the midah of Yesod. So before we actually take a look at the text itself, I'd like to just say a couple of words about that midah called Yesod. So first, down over here on my handy dandy whiteboard, which I think is so cool.
Oh, that is great. How cool.
Yeah, this is awesome. And Yesod means, literally means foundation. Whoops.
Is there any significance with the gematria? If we have 10, 4, 6.
We're not going to get that deep, but it means either foundation or bonding. And Yesod, in essence, Yesod is the connection of the lower sphirot,
right,
of the lower sphere, which is called Malchut, and the higher sphere. So it bonds basically two worlds. So Yesod is this intermediary in between two worlds. And in context of our discussion over here, what Yesod means is that how does Joseph exemplify Yesod? Because he binds
He goes from he's in the world of, right? In the world of Egypt, and he's in the world. He never loses his Jewish connection and his connection to Hashem. So he's really operating in two worlds.
Right. So the connection of Joseph is that he's able to bind the higher world, which is basically the lesson of his father, of Jacob, and to bring it down within Egypt. Okay. Right. Now, so let's take a look at the text in front of us. So we're going to skip the relevance of the passage. You could read it on your own if you like, and we're going to jump right into right over here, page 2 in front of us. And if it was after these events or these things, so the butler of the king of Egypt, it says that he transgressed his, what his job was meant to be, and what happened was that a bug fell into the wine goblet which he served Pharaoh, and also there was the baker who by accident had a little pebble put into the bread, and Pharaoh, while chewing on his piece of morning, right, English muffin or whatever he was having, and he chewed on it and he chipped a tooth, and he got really upset, and he basically threw them both into the pit around the same time. Joseph meets these two individuals who were basically two ministers, and it was because of their descent into jail why Joseph really came out, because he interpreted their dreams. So now the Zohar does not go on the pshat level, does not go on the literal explanation of the whole story, and it jumps into the Kabbalistic meaning of the story. So Rabbi Yehuda opens up, and he opens up not just giving us the interpretation, but he opens up these channels of consciousness by the explanation over here. Rabbi Yehuda Patach, he opened up first, and he says, will a lion roar in the forest when he has no prey? Will a lion cry out of his den if he has taken nothing? And this is a verse in Amos. Come behold, Tachazi, come and behold. Kama islon livnei nasha lashgacha befulchana de kuchabrichu. Come and behold how careful should a man be in the worshiping the Holy One, blessed be He. For whoever is assiduous in the study of Torah and serving the Holy One, blessed be He, is feared by all. So Rabbi Yehuda connects this verse, which talks about a lion roaring, and everybody has fear of him, right? In conjunction with somebody who is studying Torah, who is connected spiritually, and their connection spiritually has an effect on everybody around them, right? So he's feared by all, but it does, right, not in the negative context of it, but there's a feeling around somebody who is who's connected to Torah, to spirituality, to godliness. Because when the Holy One, blessed be He, created the world, avad kol biryan de alma, He made all the creatures in the world. Kol chad v'chad b'diukna kedekach chazile. He created all the creatures in the world in their appropriate shape. He then created man. So could I just ask? Can I just ask everybody to mute themselves? It just makes the audio much clearer for everybody else. If it's possible to mute, that would be good. Okay, perfect. I think there's somebody who is not mute yet, because I'm hearing an echo. Okay, perfect. No, there's still a bit of an echo. So if it's possible. Okay, so the Zohar continues. He then created man in the supernal image and made him ruler by power of this image over all creatures. So the Zohar is saying that all creatures were created with their own distinct shape on the physical level as well as the spiritual level. And then he created man. Man was created on the sixth day of creation, the last one to be created, the last one of the animals. And he created man to, in essence, exemplify or represent, in a sense, God. So he has the supernal image of godliness. And in fact, the Midrash says that when man was created, all animals, all beasts bowed down to Adam because they thought that they were seeing God. They saw Adam and they thought it was God they never saw before. And Adam said, no, don't bow down to me. Bow down to the one who created me, created all of us. And that's what Adam did on the first day on the day of his creation. So that is only true when man acts as a Adam. What is an Adam? He acts as a spiritual being, and Adam Adam. So we have 1 second. Adam comes from the word. I'm just going to bring up this whiteboard. That's the word for man, right? So it has to do with Aleph, Dam, that there's godliness within the blood. There's Aleph is God within blood. And Adam also comes from the word Adama, which means earth. And Adam also comes from the word Adame. Adame, the Maharal of Prague says that Adame comes from the word resemble God. So Adame, to resemble God. And so when man acts the way he should, so that he's resembling godliness, and he is, and therefore he's feared by all. So the Zohar here on the second paragraph continues. As long as man continues in the world to act as man, all creatures look up to him. And when they see the supernal image of man, they see godliness, they see somebody who's Adam Elyon, somebody who resembles godliness, they feel dread and tremble before him. As it is written, and the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth and upon every bird. This is true only when they look and see in him the supernal image and the soul is in him. The animal sense, and we know that they have an instinct, and they don't think intellectually, they don't think emotionally, they think instinctually. And when they feel that there's something spiritual about man, so then there's a dread. Rabbi Elazar said, Amar Rabbi Elazar, that the image of the righteous does not change, even when the soul is not in them. When a man does not walk in the ways of the Torah, and just 1 second, what does that mean? That the image of the righteous does not change, even when the soul is not in them. So that could mean either when they're sleeping, and we know that when we sleep, it's considered a 60th of death. So the soul goes up and replenishes itself up in the higher worlds. So at that point, why does an animal not attack, let's say, a righteous person who is on the road, who's sleeping. And by the way, Jacob, we know what did Jacob do when he was by Beit El? He put rocks around his head, but not around his body. And the reason that he didn't surround his whole body because he was a righteous individual, and even when he slept, he didn't fear that he would be eaten up by animals. The only reason why he put the rocks around his head is because and so that's what the rocks over there symbolized. But it could also mean after 120, when the soul really leaves the body. So even then, the bodies of the righteous are unchanged by the fact that they don't have the souls within them. So Rabbi Lazar continues, when a man does not walk in the ways of the Torah, his sacred image is altered, and the beasts of the field and the birds in the sky then prevail against him. When the sacred image was changed, so is the image of man, who then received the image of the other animals. So the creatures are no longer fearful of him and can have power over him. So there's a certain blemish, and the face of the person changes. And we know that in Hebrew, how do we see face? The word is panim, and the word panim. Just 1 second, I'm going to just write this down over here. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not writing. Anyways, okay, I got a big one. Panim. So panim comes from the word panim, which means inside. So you could, and the word, and there's a verse that says, "Chochmat Adam ta'ir panav," that the wisdom of a man, of a person, will illuminate his face, and you could see that upon a person. And so the Zohar is saying that when a person sins, when a person deviates from the path of holiness, of inner connection, right? When the compass, when the inner compass of the person takes them somewhere else, so then that also changes their face. So they might not think it, you'd ask a regular person, they'll say, no, you look the same. There's no difference. But on a spiritual level, the face changes, right? They say about the Arizal over here that lived over here in Tzfat, that the Arizal was able to read something the forehead of a person, and it's a certain certain practice in Kabbalah that the great mystics were able to look at a person's face, and specifically the forehead, and know everything about the person and what they did in the past. And not only in the past, the Arizal was able to know what they did in previous lives. And there's stories about the Arizal that when somebody bumped against him, and the Arizal looked at them and he said, "Why did you do this?" He said, "What did I do?" Well, it turned out like a couple of reincarnations ago, he did a certain thing. And he was, I guess, lucky enough, maybe at the point he was probably so scared that he didn't think he was lucky, but the Arizal kind of like fixed what happened to him a couple of reincarnations back by just looking at his face and knowing what he did. So the face of a person could change due to a sin, due to an imbalance, a spiritual imbalance. And animals, very interestingly, are able to sense that as well. And they know if the person is truly righteous or not. And I think those of us that may have had animals or have animals, know this, that maybe certain animals just, they know if a person is a good person or not a good person, and they sense it. And it's a weird, sixth sense that animals have because of that instinct. So on page 3, the Tachazin, the Holy One, blessed be He, alters the deeds above and below. That is, he switches the sacred image above and the image of man below to bring matters back to their root, as they were before the sin of the tree of knowledge, so that his wish shall abide in all the world's deeds. By retribution, all the deeds in the world improve. So what the Zohar is saying is that God kind of like, due to a person's actions, there's a response down below in this world. In other words, we don't live in a vacuum. We don't live in a hollow existence. That our personal actions have a cosmic effect, and within the world itself, within the interaction of the world, right? There is the word over here is retribution, or if you'd like to say a different word, it's almost like almost like a karma effect. That when we do something, then something comes back to itself. Why? In order to fix the person and to elevate the person. So in essence, all hardships or negativity that may come to a person are really there to fix and to put back that balance within their inner image, their inner panim. Daniel's image was not changed when he was cast into the lion's den, and because of that, he was saved. So we know the story of Daniel. It's one of the famous stories in the Tanakh, in the Bible, where the king Nebuchadnezzar builds a certain huge image, and Daniel is one of his main advisors, and he has everybody bow down to this image, and Daniel refuses to bow down. So his political foes all try to get Daniel out of the position of power, get them out of the coalition, and create a whole other coup and whatever. So they say to Nebuchadnezzar, "Look, Daniel's not bowing down. He's terrible." So Nebuchadnezzar has no choice. He says, "I love you, Daniel, but I got to throw you into the lion's pit." And he throws him into the lion's pit, and the lions are actually starved for like 2-3 days. So they're ready to bounce on anybody who's in there. Daniel gets in there, and the opposite happens. They sit in front of Daniel as if they were little kittens. And they look inside and you see, nothing happens. So the Nebuchadnezzar says, "Let's throw the advisors in. Let's see who's right." And the minute they throw the advisors in, they get chewed up, and nothing is left. So the Zohar says that why was it that Daniel was not affected? It's because his godly image was untainted. He was a tzaddik. He was a righteous individual, and therefore, as he walked into that lion's den, the lions sensed it, and they knew that somebody holy was there. So it sounds as if he was not hurt because of the angels who shut the lions' mouths, and not because of his sacred image. He said to him, Amar lo, Daniel was not hurt. I'm sorry, one second. Rabbi Chizkiah. This is a question asked by Rabbi Chizkiah, who was one of the students of the Rashbi, and Rabbi Elazar as well, who's the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who we are a couple of meters away from. And Rabbi Elazar answers Rabbi Chizkiah, and he says to him, Daniel was not hurt because of the sacred images of the... it wasn't because angels were there and protected him, because that's one level of interpretation. The Midrash says that there were angels. But on the level of Sod, on the level of secret, Daniel was not hurt because of the sacred image of the righteous man is the very angel who shut the lions' mouths and shackled them to keep Daniel safe. So this is amazing. Really, when a man when a person is kept pristine and sacred, so then that's like the face of an angel. Therefore, Daniel said, "My Elokim has sent an angel." Meaning what? This refers to that angel upon whom all images of the world are engraved. He strengthened the image in me so that the lions could not overpower me. And he shut their mouths assuringly. He sent his angel. He sent his angel. That means, right? Again, his angel, meaning his godly image, was the angel over here. This is the one angel upon whom all the images are engraved. So what is this angel? He is the secret of the nukva. Nukva means the feminine. I'm sorry, could everybody just mute them? Is it possible? Mute yourself, please. Jeremiah, if it's possible, if you could mute yourself, that'd be great. This is the one angel upon whom all images are engraved, and this angel again is the secret of the nukva called angel, malach, from whom all the shapes in the world are issued. It is written, he judges amongst the nations their land in full of dead bodies. That's just dichtiv yadin bagoyim aleg viot. Now, what does that mean? For all the shapes of the bodies are before him, because no shape can change itself before him. So we know, I mean, this gets into a little bit what angels are about, but really angels are messengers, and in this case, there's the messenger of God to kind of like issue forms of bodies, right? And everything in the world is really bodies, is composed of body and soul. And this really goes back to its spiritual source. Spiritual source is called the kelim. And the kelim are the vessels, and there's the or and there's the kli. There's a light and there's a vessel, and the source of all bodies is the vessel. And so for the physical bodies to be created in the world in this physical world, there's an angel that's appointed to kind of like, mold. And so no shape can change itself before him. Thus, it behooves a man to guard his ways and paths so as not to sin before his master and thereby retain the image of Adam. So this basically, if a person did not sin, so then what happens is he actually stays with that original shape that he was given. And what is the original shape? The original shape is actually the image of Adam. So I just want to mention also a story about the Chozeh of Lublin. He was a great Hasidic master. He's called the Rabbi Yitzchak. Yitzchak of Lublin. That's where he lived. He was a disciple of Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhensk, who was the student of the Maggid of Mezrich, who today's is Yortzai, the Maggid of Mezrich, who was a great student of the Baal Shem Tov, and also today, by the way, is Yutes Kislev, the day that the Alter Rebbe, that the Baal Tanya was released from jail. It's a very powerful day, very strong spiritual day. It's a day of strength, of spiritual strength, and hope maybe we'll get a little bit into that in a little bit later. But I just want to mention the story about the Chozeh of Lublin, that after his master passed away, Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhensk, so Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhensk gave, that's right, the Alter Rebbe is called the Tanya, the Baal Tanya. So Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhensk bequeathed, he gave over to all of his students his different soul powers. So to one he gave his intellectual powers, the other one he gave his emotional powers, the other one he gave his eyes, the other ones he gave his ears, spiritual ears. So he gave to the Chozeh of Lublin the power of his eyes. That's why it's called the Chozeh, the seer of Lublin. So when he received this power, so all of a sudden he's able to see, and not just see physically, he's able to see. It's called the seer. And he started to see great distances, and then he started to look at people. And all of a sudden, he looked at a person, and kind of like the Arizal, like that we mentioned, he saw their image right here in this world, and you saw a previous reincarnation, and the reincarnation before that, and before that. It's almost like what do you call it? Like the domino, like going one, going all the way back, and then he saw the letters Aleph, Daled, Mem, Adam, and he saw how this person is rooted in Adam. And essentially, the fixing of of all reincarnation is really is to have that image of Adam, and to have that holy image of Adam. So this is, remember, where this is all leading us. It's all leading us to Joseph, to talking about Joseph, because this is the Parsha of the week. It talks about Yosef, and Yosef had this special image. It says that he was exceedingly good looking, yefei toar v'yefei mar'eh, which we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. So come and behold. So before we get to Joseph, the Zohar continues, come and behold, Ezekiel guarded his mouth against forbidden foods. As it is written, right, nor did loathsome meat ever come into my mouth. So I guess Yechezkel had the ability to eat different types of foods, and he held himself back. He therefore merited being named the son of Adam. It is written about Daniel, but Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's food, nor with the wine which he drank. He then merited preserving the image of Adam. For all the beings in the world are fearful of the image of Adam, who ruled over them all and was king over them. Rabbi Yossi said, right, and so this is not just with Ezekiel and Daniel, but basically, anybody who is, again, it's not somebody who never, let's say, ate from forbidden foods or never did, but we know that the power of tshuva, the Baal tshuva actually has a tremendous amount of power that is able to bring the Baal tshuva actually to a higher level than even a righteous person, because he was far away, and because of that yearning to go back to the source. Rabbi Yossi said that a man should beware of sinning and not deviate right or left. Although he guards himself, he should search himself daily for sins. For when a man rises from his bed, 2 witnesses stand before him and accompany him the whole day. So this is an unbelievable concept, right? We think that we're just getting up and drinking the coffee, listening to the news or whatever, hopefully not, And when a man wishes to rise, so he opens his eyes, and the witnesses say to him, the Zohar tells us, let your eyes look right on, and let your eyelids look straight before you. So it's explained that the purpose of eyelids are not just to keep dust away from your eyes, but to keep your eyes actually just looking straight. Don't look right, don't look left. When he prepares himself to go, they say to him, make even the path of your foot. Thus, when a man walks, he should guard against the sin the whole day. So basically, it's the eyelashes going straight, and the Talmud talks about a certain righteous person that had really long eyelashes that they almost like drooped down. And they say that he was a very holy man because, he kind of like, God grew this eyelashes that kind of like kept them like just looking straight and not looking right or left. So that's the first time that a person should check himself during the day. Kind of like, it's almost like the prep. He prepares himself for the day. He wakes up in the morning. He's got these two witnesses kind of that are in front of him. And he affirms for himself, in a sense, how he wants his day to look like. When night falls, he should examine and search his actions for that day to repent for his deeds. He should always search them so he can repent before his master, as it is written, and my sin is even before me, right? King David says, chatati negdi tamid, that my sin is before me. So before going to sleep, there's the concept of saying the nightly Shema, saying the Shema before we go to sleep, before retiring. So the soul goes back to its source. And when the soul goes back to its source, we say b'yadcha afkid ruchi, that in your hands, in your hands, I deposit my soul. And that's an acronym, by the way. Oh, cool. I could actually write on this too. V'yadcha afkid afkid ruchi, which is an acronym of be'er. Be'er is a well. So when the soul goes up, it regenerates itself in this spiritual well, be'er. So it gets this nourishment. It goes back to the well of the source of the soul. So at that point, a person should also check himself before retiring to go to sleep, to contemplate what their day looked like. And this is an unbelievable thing. Thinking about our lives is not just, for the new year or, for the Jewish New Year, for that sense. But in fact, every single night is an opportune time for a person to check himself, for a person to think about what my day went like, what was like, what were the positive points of the day, what were the not so great points of the day. So the Zohar says that those are opportune times of checking oneself. So come and behold, as long as Israel, as long as the Jewish people were in the Holy Land, they had no sin on their hands, because, as has been explained, of the sacrifices they offered daily that atoned for their sins. Once Israel exiled from the Holy Land, and there was nothing there to atone for them, the Torah and their good deeds atoned for them. So so right now the spirit, the personal job, the personal holiness, the personal Torah learning and good deeds that a person does, in other words, the spiritual legwork that a person does, that's what atones for the person, because the Shekhinah is with them in exile. Whoever does not care for the ways of the Holy One, blessed be He, causes the Shekhinah to bend the dust, as it is written, He lays it low even to the ground, as it says in Isaiah, that the Shekhinah actually goes down. And when a person thinks about their spirituality, their connections, so then that causes the Shekhinah to be raised up from the dust, which is the divine level, right? Which is called the Shekhinah. The lower level is down into the dust during the days of exile. Rabbi Yitzchak said that he who devotes himself to the Torah and to the good deeds causes the congregation of Yisrael, the Shekhinah, to lift up its head in exile. Happy is the portion of those who devote themselves to the study, to the Torah day and night. Right. So, in essence, what we're seeing is, let's just maybe give a recap, kind of like where the Zohar is going with this. So the Zohar is mentioning that when a person is Adam-like, in other words, a person is not Adam with a T, but Adam with a D, so he is true to his godly source, and therefore his face is a holy face, and he holds dominion, and he is kind of like ruling over the lower world. Now, when a person sins, so then the godly image of his face goes away, and then the other creatures don't respect him, and it causes basically spirituality to not be known, and spirituality to descend down into the dust. So what raises up spirituality? It's a study of Torah, right, and good deeds, raises up the person, and by that also all of, right, and also all of existence, right? So it's this daily study almost that causes this. And the Zohar gives the point that when we think about our day in the morning, first thing that we do in the morning. By the way, first thing that we do in the morning, we say the Modeh Ani, we say we acknowledge you, God, right? So that acknowledgement is actually a meditation. It's one of the most beautiful meditations where we say we acknowledge that you are the ultimate supreme ruler, and we bend our heads, and we spend a couple of minutes, or it could be even seconds, just breathing and taking in that awareness and that consciousness, and that consciousness is something that stays with us for the whole day, right? The Zohar says that kind of like these two emissaries, these two angels say, okay, we bless you that your whole day should be this way. And the other time of doing this is before we go to sleep. So before we go to sleep, we acknowledge what we did right and what we didn't do right. And those are the two times. So these are pointers that the Zohar tells us for us to bear in mind on how we could better be more Adam-like. So the Zohar continues. Come and behold, Ta'chazi, the Holy One, blessed be He, transforms matters in the world so as to lift the heads of the righteous. To enable Joseph to raise his head for being righteous before him, he caused the master to be angry with his servants, as it is written, the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker offended their lord, the king of Egypt. We spoke about earlier what happened. So these two guys, these two ministers, were thrown into jail. All this happened was to lift the head of Joseph the righteous. Come and behold, he was humiliated by his brothers through a dream. He obtained greatness over his brothers and was raised above the whole world through a dream, namely by the dream of Pharaoh. So it was almost like measure for measure. They threw him in there for being a dreamer, and he proved his greatness by interpreting a dream. So these two ministers it was all divinely ordained that they should be thrown and be cast into this pit with Joseph, so that Joseph should be able to assume his great stature once more. And he dreamed a dream, both of them, each man on the same night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream. Come and behold, we have learnt that all dreams follow their interpretation. This is a famous idiom of the Talmud, that the dreams follow the interpretation. So the way a person interprets, so a person should be very careful interpreting other people's dreams, because when he interprets their dreams, he kind of like he materializes a certain aspect of the dream. He causes the dream to crystallize in some way. In this respect, he asks, when Joseph interpreted their dreams, why did he give one a good interpretation and the other one a bad interpretation? Why did he not give them both a good interpretation? And he answers, the two dreams concerned Joseph, and because he knew that the root of every matter, Joseph knew the root of every matter, he interpreted their dreams accordingly. So Joseph knew exactly what he was looking for, and he knew that each one of them, that the butler needed to have a positive dream, and the baker had this negative dream, and gave them the meaning, and so as to return each matter to its own place and own root. It is written, and Joseph said to them, do not interpretations belong to Elohim, right? Because at first they said, no, we're not going to tell you the dream, forget about it. And so Joseph said, Halol Elohim Pitronim, that Elohim, and Elohim is very significant, because Elohim is the name of God, the lower aspect of God, which is within the world, which connotes judgment. And so he says, pray, tell me your dream. I pray, right? So he says, tell me what they are. He asks, why did he speak thus? So why did Yosef say this? And he answers, this is the way a dream should be interpreted, by entrusting the interpretation to the Holy One, blessed be He, for the existence of everything is there, and therein lies the interpretation. So it's not just that the interpretation was just said, and just made up. But you realize that everything comes from Elohim. Everything comes from God. Come and behold, we have learned that the dreamer's grade is the sixth below prophecy. So there's a level of prophecy, and then there's 6 levels under prophecy, and the sixth one is a dream. So it's a level of a prophecy. So between the grade of prophecy and the grade of dreams lies six grades. Interpretation ascends from the dreamer's grade into another one. He explains that the dream is the low grade of Gabriel, and the interpretation is established by it, for it depends upon the speech. The nukva, as it is written, Elohim, assuredly Elohim, which is the level of nukva. Okay, so Leah asked, why is the name Elohim used here for Hashem as opposed to others? So this is what the Zohar is saying over here in this last paragraph, that Joseph was connecting the level of prophecy, which comes from the place of Gabriel, that's this very high place, with Elohim, with the interpretation, which has to do with more of speech. So speech is associated with Elohim. Like we say, Vayeishev bara Elohim et hashamayim v'ta'areth. So God created the heaven and the earth, and we know that the creation of the heaven and earth were done through the alphabet, actually through speech. And the idea of creation, but godly creation, has to do with speech. So speech is associated with Elohim. So when Joseph says and he interprets the dreams, so what he's actually doing, he is acting as Elohim, and Elohim is the lower dimension of godliness. And when he's doing that, he is connecting this sixth level of so to speak, of prophecy to the higher level, and by that he brings it into fruition. So he connects the higher level to the lower level, and therefore Elohim was used. Jeremiah just asked the question over here, that I understood that Joseph gave God the credit for the interpretation because only the one who gives the dreams can give the interpretation. Correct. But the Zohar is saying over here on a deeper Kabbalistic level, he's saying that he's using the name of Elohim to harness the dream's potentiality and to bring it into fruition. So if there's any other questions or comments, I want to kind of like bring this lesson together, bring this very beautiful portion of the Zohar together for us, and kind of like bring it down to our lives. So we read about Adam, and I'm sorry if everybody could mute themselves, that'd be really great. I'm still hearing a little bit of an echo. Sure. So one second. Okay. I realize I can mute everybody. Okay. So I just want to bring together this lesson and kind of, bring it down to our lives. So we read about Joseph in this week's Parsha, in this week's reading. So essentially that's the energy of the week is, as we opened up, is the energy of Yesod. So it is drawing on from that's what Joseph was all about. World. He bonded two worlds: the spiritual world, the hidden world within the revealed world. And that's the level of what? That's the level of tzaddik. Tzaddik is a tzaddik, a righteous individual. A righteous individual isn't just somebody that does a favor for somebody else, but a righteous individual is somebody who is pure, who's connected to their source at all times. So it's not so easy to be righteous. We could do righteous deeds, but to be a tzaddik is really a very, very high level. And we are on the level of kind of like combating good, bringing good versus bad, and within our action and within our thoughts, right? As discussed at length in Tanya, in the book of Tanya. But at the level of tzaddik, he's not combating these levels like we're combating them. He or she is on that level. So Joseph was the exemplary tzaddik. Therefore, it's called Joseph, the Yosef HaTzadik, Joseph the tzaddik, because he joined two worlds together. So it is therefore appropriate that the Zohar speaks about the level of Adam, about a person who's righteous, that's able to have dominion and rulership over all animals, because that's what Joseph was. He came down into Egypt, and he actually ruled over all of Egypt. And he was, he had this fear he showed fear or expressed this very holy face to all of Egypt, and therefore he became the viceroy of Egypt. So that's the correlation between this portion, this teaching of the Zohar. And I want to bring it down to our lives, bring it more, bring this down even more. That the level of Adam. How do we connect to this level of Adam? To really, it's by the studying of the inner dimension of the hidden aspects of Torah, and the hidden aspects of Torah open our minds up to a different reality, to a deeper reality. So there's the revealed aspect of Torah. There's the stories and there's the laws, etc. But when we connect on the deeper aspect of Torah, and that's called Pnimiyuta Torah. Pnimiyuta Torah is the face of Torah, kind of like the inner aspect of Torah. So then we are connecting to this as well. Zohar says in a different place that there's three things that connect together. There's Yisrael, and there's the Torah, and there's God. So we need the Torah to bind ourselves to God. So the Torah is kind of like that glue. It's that yesod. It binds us to the infinite. So how do we bind ourselves to the infinite? By the study of Torah, like the Zohar told us earlier, and by good deeds. But even more than that, by studying the inner aspect of Torah, which is pnimiyut, we also get the inner face of Torah. And when we get the inner face of Torah, so then our trials and tribulations, our inner trials and tribulations are really not so serious. They're really not so. They're not so massive. We think that things are such big deals. But for example, when we fly in a plane and we look outside of the window of the plane, we see everything looks itty bitty. Everything is really tiny. We stand on a very tall, building, and we see everything looks tiny. Those little cars and trees and buses and everything else. So it's the same thing when we study the inner aspects of Torah. So we become a little bit more mature. Our consciousness becomes more developed. So the little problems of life, the little issues that we're now the inner, like we studied in the Zohar. So then the face of the Adam is the thing that shines. So then everything else is so all those creatures and all those negativity and whatever else that comes into our lives is subdued, and not only subdued, but actually realizes that the face of the Adam is the true face. So in other words, that's not just about being the creatures, and it's not just being a random creature, but all random creatures have their source in spirituality, and it's the job of man, it's the job of Adam to utilize all of creation. So man can only utilize creation if he utilizes himself, his own spiritual makeup. And so how do we do that? Once again, we by being more connected on a conscious level to the inner aspects of Torah, which is Kabbalah, which is Pnimiyut Torah, which is Chassidut, I just want to mention just one point. As I said earlier, today is Yutet Kislev. It's the 19th day of Kislev, of the Hebrew month of Kislev, the day that the great Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya, came out of jail, and he says he was placed in jail because he was actually revealing this inner aspect of Torah. And this goes back to the 1700s. He was placed in the Tsarist prison in the Peter Paul, very jail, and he was actually supposed to die. And the story goes that when he was reading Psalms, and he came to the verse Pada b'shalom nafshi. When I came to the place of Pada b'shalom nafshi, God has redeemed me through shalom, through peace. The door opened up, and he was told that now he was going to go free. So the word shalom, peace, is the word. Just as he read the word, they opened it up and he let him go. So the correlation is made that shalom, this verse, Pada b'shalom nafshi, it was said by King David. And it was said about King David's enemies, that God has redeemed me through peace. That King David's enemies, even his own son, who was not called Avshalom, wanted to kill him. And Avshalom not only did not kill him, and the enemies of King David didn't just not kill him, but they actually prayed for his success, and they made peace with him. So it comes out that King David's enemies actually made peace with him. Not only were they not fighting with him, but his enemies now made peace with him. They prayed that he should succeed. So this is very, very significant, because it relates to us that we could have, let's say, wars with ourselves, or with our kind of like enemies, so to speak, on whether they're physical or spiritual enemies or emotional, whatever way we look at it. But when a person is connected to shalom, connected to Pnimiyut HaTorah, to the inner aspects of Torah, so even the enemies, and it's like what we're learning over here in the Zohar, it relates. So even the animals recognize that this is a holy face, that this is a godly existence, and therefore it's a day of transformation. It transforms the negativity into something which is positive.
What psalm was that?
That's
what psalm is it from?
It's Hey Daled.
Write it. I can't hear.
It's Psalm 84. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. So with this lesson, I'd like to really bless us all, that we should really first of all, we should have peace. Peace within the world. Really, this is have shalom really within the entire world right now. Peace within the in America, and peace all over the world, and peace within Israel, peace upon Jerusalem, the holy peace on the holy Temple Mount.
Amen.
And then peace within ourselves, really, and peace within ourselves is something which has a tremendous power to bring peace upon the Holy Temple and Jerusalem and the land of Israel, and the whole entire world. Actually has to do with our inner struggles. And so the relevance of this passage that we were studying today is so powerful. And I bless everybody that we should really all be successful with bringing the pnimiyut, with bringing the inner essence into our lives, into the essence of the entire world, and by that bringing much more light and goodness and transformation into the world. Now, we should all meet each other. It's called shalom. It has to do with shalom, the merging of opposites. So that's the ultimate. So we should all have
with all of Hashem's blessings on a physical and spiritual level.
Amen. Amen. And God bless everybody, and a good day, and hope you join next week. See you next week.
Great.
Next week is Hanukkah time, so we're gonna be zoning on Hanukkah, on the
Good.
mystical interpretation of the candles. So I look forward to seeing everybody next week, and so Shabbat Shalom, and God bless.
Thank you,
Shabbat
Rabbi.
shalom.
God bless. Great class.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Rabbi.
Rabbi,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Shabbat
Great
shalom.
class.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Kol Tov, Shabbat.
Go to.
Kol Tov.
Go to.